my area and parts of Sikuru Ward in the area around Masiungwa and parts of Endau Malalani Ward are ensured of sustainable efforts to secure the residents and enforce lasting peace. Madam Speaker, if you just allow me 1 minute on this. As I speak, Madam Speaker, residents of Moda Ward are running away from their homes as I speak now, because they have been invaded and they are being attacked by bandits who are masquerading as camel farmers. Madam Speaker, camels in Kitui now have become an enemy of the people, and every time a resident of Kitui sees a camel, they see death. Because the minute you try to drive away a camel from your farm, you are attacked by the herders and probably killed. Madam Speaker, I wish the Security Committee would take this matter very, very seriously, and we ensure lasting solution to this menace. Yesterday, Madam Speaker, and that's why I'm going to conclude there. Yesterday, when the cabinet nominee for defense was being vetted, he went on record that he has 250 camels, all grazing in parts of Kitui. Madam Speaker, this is a matter that must come to an end. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Point of information? Delegate, Senator. Okay. I will allow 2 comments on that statement, and then we'll move to the rest of the statements. Only 2 comments. There are very many statements on the order paper today. Senator Abbas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the mic. Madam Speaker, as much as we appreciate the Honorable Senators from Kitui statement, one thing I want to tell the House is that this time there's a terrible drought, there's famine, and those camels belong to Kenyans. And we appreciate for those animals to at least be taken care of by our brothers and sisters in Kitui. Madam Speaker, one thing you should know is that these are resources for Kenyans. If you said get oil in Wajir, we will not discriminate whether one comes from Kitui, whether one comes from Wajir. Equally, those animals, I think, have some right to graze in those places with at least due consideration. We will tell I'm requesting the Kitui Senator, Mheshimiwa Mutua, to be lenient and consider the situation. Today, those animals are actually faced with death. The owners actually are faced with famine, and they need to keep the animals alive. And therefore, we will appreciate the generosity of Kitui people and we can bear it light. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Senator Kenywa, comment.
Asante sana Bi Speaker kunipa fursa hii. Mambo ya usalama, Bwana Speaker, na ufugaji umekuwa ikiandamana, na ni vizuri julikane wazi kazi kuu ya serikali ni kulinda maisha na mali ya wananchi. Bwana Bi Speaker, ni jambo ambalo limekuwa likifanyika Laikipia. Wafugaji wanakuja wanachunga katika mashamba ya watu, anakuambia kwamba yeye anachunga nyasi na hachungi mchanga. Ati mchanga ndio wako, lakini mimea iliyoko ni ya wanyama. Bi Speaker, ni vizuri ijulikane wazi ya kwamba mashamba yana wenyewe, Na yule ambaye ni mfugaji, hakuna mtu ambaye anasema hapaswi kuwa na mifugo yake, lakini mifugo ambayo unaweka, unapaswa uweke mifugo ambayo idadi yake unaweza ukaweka kwa shamba lako, kwa sababu yule mkulima ambaye ameweka mimea yake ana haki vile vile ya kuweka mimea yake, kwa sababu anategemea mimea ile. Na wewe ambaye unategemea mifugo yako uiweke kwa shamba ambalo itatoshea mifugo ambayo umeiweka. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri tuheshimiane. Mkulima na mimea yake heshimiwe, mfugaji na mifugo yake aheshimiwe. Kenya ni yetu yote na tuishi kwa kitu kimoja. Kwa hivyo kama ni mimea yako, huendi kama ni kupanda, huendi ukapanda kwa shamba ya yule ambaye ameweka mifugo yake. Kwa hivyo Bi Speaker, ni vizuri, nataka kuunga mkono taarifa iliyoletwa na Senator Wambua ya kwamba wale ngamia wachungwe kwa shamba lao, na wale wafugaji waweze kupewa haki yao kikatiba na kisheria kuwa wanaishi katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Asante Bi Speaker.
Senators, this being an important matter, I hereby commit this to the standing committee I had made a ruling that only 2 people would contribute to that statement. We have very many statements today, senators, unless if we don't want to receive some of them. Okay, that is noted. That is noted. Yes, I'll give you a chance, but you wait until I finish what I am reading out. We are committing this matter to the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations to issue a statement on the insecurity situation in Mutha Ward, Kitui County. What is your point of order? Okay, let's hear you.
Mr. Speaker, katika mjadala ambao unaletwa ndani ya bunge, Mr. Speaker, singependelea kuweza kueleza vile ambavyo unatakana ufanye. Ninajua kazi yako unaifanya kisawasawa, lakini haki na utendaji wa kazi ni lazima viende pamoja. Upande huu wana haki pia ya kuchangia kama mswada umeletwa. Nimeona, ninashangaa sasa kuona ya kwamba unaelekeza upande mmoja wanaongea, alafu upande huu mwingine haupewi nafasi ya kuongea. Sitaki kukosea ama kukukosoa katika uamuzi wako uliofanya, lakini nafikiria kwa wakati mwingine tukipata nafasi kama hiyo, ingekuwa bora upeane nafasi kwa upande huu, uwasikize pia, na hawa pia uweze kuwasikiza kisawasawa. Sio kulalia upande mmoja na upande mwingine ukoacha hivi hivi. Asante Bi Speaker.
What's your point of order, Senator Cherabigi?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think I noted, and I think Senate Minority Leader should also be fair since he's a lawyer. During the last contribution on the petition, you gave 2 people, if I remember, from the side of minority, and we never complained. So the issue of saying there is discrimination in terms of people who can speak on a motion or a statement or on a bill is a bit unfair. And for heaven's sake, Madam Speaker, this is your maiden presiding of the House. So so at least be fair. And you are doing very well, extremely well. And for the purposes of record, the statement came from the minority side. They should be gracious enough when it comes to, and we supported them.
We actually supporting this.
I will exercise my discretion. I want to assure both sides of the House that The Speaker is allowing everybody to contribute to the motion. That statement came from the minority side, but to assure that assurance, to give that assurance further, I will still give somebody to comment on that statement. We could have one person comment on that statement. We've committed. So we move on. Okay, thank you. I stand guided. You are assured of the Speaker's neutrality in allowing everyone to contribute. So we'll go back to the order paper. And I also want to comment on, Senator Chiraligei's, what you noted. I actually did not give them two. I gave them a little more than what was given to the majority side. So stand assured that you are in safe hands. Let's move to the next item. The next statement, pursuant to Standing Order 52.1, we will get the statement from Senator Abdul Haji concerning the plan by Safaricom PLC to block unregistered SIM cards by 15th October 2022.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 52.1 to make a statement on a matter of inter-county importance and general topic concern, namely concerns over the plan by Safaricom PLC to block SIM cards that will not have been re-registered by Sunday, 15th October 2022. Madam Speaker, there are millions of Kenyans in need of humanitarian aid, especially in the northern counties and other arid and semi-arid lands, areas of Kenya where the populace is faced by the debilitating effects of severe drought. It is appreciated that many non-governmental organizations have stepped in to offer the much-needed support during this time. These humanitarian organizations reached at least 598,100 people in the Asal region with life-saving and life-sustaining assistance between October 2021 and May 2022, including 534,000 in 2022 alone. Madam Speaker, this support, aimed at mitigating the effects of drought, includes water tracking, provision of human and animal feeds to protect livelihoods, health services, and most importantly, cash transfers to thousands of beneficiaries across the more than 20 drought-stricken counties. Needless to say, these cash transfers run into billions of shillings. Madam Speaker, I'm not in contention of the fact that SIM cards must be registered to prevent crime, fraud, and other malpractices, and I'm also aware that the need to re-register the SIM cards is a compliance requirement in accordance with the Kenya Information and Communication Act. However, Safaricom needs to take cognizance of the special circumstances of most of the people in the ASL areas. All of these cash transfer beneficiaries, mostly pastoralists, receive this support through M-Pesa, and they live far from places where they can promptly update their registration details. Further, not only is the network hard to access in these areas, it is also quite erratic. Illiteracy is another confounding problem. Madam Speaker, it is my opinion that disconnecting these beneficiaries in the midst of humanitarian crisis that has been brought about by the drought situation amounts to a violation of their rights. I would therefore like to appeal to this Senate to prevail upon Safaricom and other telecommunication service providers to defer their deadline and to also consider having mobile registration centers to these pastoralist and ASL areas in order to ensure compliance, so that humanitarian aid is not disrupted by the action of disconnecting these customers. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yes. What is your point of order? Senator Aaron?
Madam Speaker, just to confirm, I'm not certain about this, but I thought I saw a communication from the Communications Authority that they have extended the deadline for this registration by a further 60 days. Perhaps Senator Abdul could actually
guide us, or with your guidance, if this has been done, then we may not need to dwell too much on this. I don't know, but I need your guidance, Madam Speaker.
Before we respond to that, I will request clerk to come. I will give two people to comment, two senators. Okay, then let me give 4 people. It's an issue of serious interest. 2 on this side and 2 senators on the minority side and the majority side, 2 senators. So, Senator Otsotsi.
Madam Speaker, this issue is of huge concern. CA may have been justified in trying to get the SIM details of all the subscribers. But the process undertaken by Safaricom in trying to get this data, Madam Speaker, is unlawful. I want to say this, Madam Speaker, because in the National Assembly, we passed a law called the Data Protection Act. And we established an office called the Data Commissioner's Office, who later came up with the regulations. Madam Speaker, I want to say that Safaricom has violated the internationally recognized data protection principles, which require that when you pick data from a data subject, you must get a proper consent before you pick that data. Madam Speaker, whereas I appreciate that Safaricom came up with an online form and even sent messages to subscribers with a link, that link was not functional. And hence, most subscribers went to their outlets, they gave their information, their ID details, without filling any form at all. And this is against the law, this is against the regulation, and this is against the international best practice on data protection. So, Mr. Speaker, they say data is the modern oil. Data is expensive. We have allowed our citizens to give their private national registration data to a private company, and we don't know what this data is going to do. There was no consent at all, because the consent is supposed to state the usage of that data clearly. That was not done. So, Madam Speaker, on that basis, I want to say that in the process of collecting this data, Safaricom has violated the data protection law, and I'm sure IT experts who are in this room will agree with me that this process was unlawful, regardless of the fact that it is necessary to get this data for other purposes like security. But they needed to state that purpose, because today, if you allow a private company to get data, that is one way of promoting state capture. You do not know what that data will be used for. So on that basis, I think the particular committee that is going to deal with this, and I know is the ICT committee, they need to look at the issues of violation of the law, particularly the data protection law, and the data commissioner must be invited. The CA must be invited to explain to the committee why they oversaw violation of the data protection principles and the law and the regulation. That is the most important thing, regardless of the fact that Safaricom has extended the period. Yesterday, they disconnected my line. I went to Safaricom and I asked them, is there any form I need to fill? They told me there is no form. They just picked my ID, scanned it, and reverted back my line. That is a thing that should not happen in this country, especially when you are dealing with a private company and you are giving your national registration data to a private company. So, Mr. Speaker, I think in committing this matter to the committee, a committee must also be directed to look into the illegalities committed by the subscribers, Safaricom, of course, included.
Thank you,
Madam Speaker.
Senators, please take 2 minutes only to contribute. Thank you, Senator Osotsi. Senator Gloria, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, let me inform the House and the general public that there is no such thing as re-registration of SIM cards. It does not exist in any Communication Act, and no one should come out here and tell us about re-registration. If you look at the Communication Act of 2015 and SIM registration, they are only talking about registration of any SIM card holder, meaning at the point at which you are actually purchasing the SIM card, you registered. You will check that the guidelines that have been put there in our Communication Act is that you will provide information, full names, your ID, your alien card or your service card or your passport, date of birth, things like gender. And this information is actually classified as sensitive information. Sensitive information under the Communication Act actually it is guided on how data processors or data handlers should deal with it. Sensitive information is any information that puts out your sexual orientation, your gender, your genetic background, and things like that. So whatever this SIM registration process that they're doing, and they're calling it re-registration, which in itself is an illegal act. It is only registration, meaning if you actually at any one point, which myself I did, gave my ID, my names, and the details to procure a SIM card, nobody should come back to you and tell you we are re-registering, because nothing like that exists. When you check the process of what they are calling re-registration, they are asking for additional information. And they have not sensitized the public, and when I say they, the service providers, Safaricom and Airtel, have not sensitized the public on why they need this additional information. For instance, you are asked for your photographs. They are asking that you have to take a photo. At one point when we were going to Safaricom, you have to take your photo and give it in.
What's your point of order, Senator Chirodege?
Madam Speaker, I rise on a point of order, standing order number 52, while appreciating the fact that Senator Haji has brought a very serious issue, understanding order 52. Madam Speaker, and some of us on Sunday, when I was supposed to pray, and I think my prayers were affected, the Safaricom decided to switch off my line. Looking at standing order 52.1, 52.3 on general statements, 3, the Speaker may, where appropriate, refer a statement made under paragraph 1 to the relevant committee for consideration. And therefore, Madam Speaker, looking that this matter is serious, and I know almost each and every member has an issue with it, I would request that now that the ICT committee has been formally formed, and looking at what Senate Majority Leader has just said, that is a communication from Commission Authority of Kenya on the extension period, so that some of these issues that senators are raising, Senator Gloria, Senator Otsotsi, can be looked at. Madam Speaker, I request your indulgence that this matter be referred, because it was a general statement, and therefore there is no obligation. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Chirodege, while that is a very good contribution, I doubt if it's a point of order. I don't think it's a point of order. So I will allow Senator Gloria to wind up in 10 seconds, then we go to the third person.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll wind up by saying that, first of all, the process of re-registration does not exist. It is not in the legal framework. It is nowhere in the Communication Act 2015 and any other Communication Act. And actually, Madam Speaker, just to sensitize the House on what is happening is that there is a lot of data mining. I was talking about photographs. Nowadays, when you're tracking a person, you can actually get that Madam Speaker Veronica Maina is seated there, and by additional information such as photographs, I can see all the people who are holding funds and how they look like, and it actually gives away information that should be protected, and it infringes on the privacy. On the issue of the data protection, which I know we will discuss on a later time, but Safaricom and Airtel, together with Communication Authority, because it is the authority that's supposed to guide them, they are actually infringing on the rights of people, and they should be stopped. And this re-registration, which is an illegal act, should actually be halted, and the service providers should be brought to book, because they have already breached on our privacy, and they should come and...
Thank you, Senator Gloria. Thank you. Senator Olekina.
Madam Speaker, I thank you. One of the things that I've noted is that I think we are being partial in prosecuting this matter. This is a matter that cuts across all the telecommunication providers. Safaricom, Airtel, I think the other one is Telcom, and any other one which are hidden. So I think we should be impartial. And it is important because when we keep on prosecuting one company, we are actually being very unfair to them. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, the second very important thing that I want to note here is that we have the Communication Authority, and I'm aware that they have extended the period of registration of SIM cards. What the committee ought to further investigate is why is it that we now have a problem of pre-registration. Madam Speaker, when we were considering, I think, the Data Protection Act, it is one. Okay, can I just? Madam Speaker, if the distinguished senator is communicating to you, I'll be more than happy to be informed. But it all. If you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, so that I can be able not to interfere.
Did you want to inform?
But
okay.
Can I finish
Do you want
prosecuting?
to be informed?
Yes, why not? But I've never had this.
Very quickly.
I'd like to inform Senator Ledama that we are referencing Safaricom and Airtel, because when you look at the list of registered processors of data and controllers of data, it is limited to those that are in the list. And those who are switching off the lines, it is limited to Safaricom and Airtel. And that is the reason why I reference those two. It has nothing to do with victimization. Just look at the list.
Madam Speaker, I'm very much aware of that. That was not really information, but it's okay, because the distinguished senator is among the senators who contributed on this matter. And having spoken after her, I was not referring directly to her sentiments. Madam Speaker, to conclude this matter, this is a matter which is provided for under Article 31C and D of the Constitution of Kenya. One of the things that the committee ought to relook is whether what we are discussing now form part of what was considered by the judiciary as unconstitutional in the Data Protection Act. So, Madam Speaker, I support this statement from the distinguished Senator Yusuf Haji, but I would also want to seek that the committee that is investigating this matter to be impartial when they are calling the witnesses, so that we need to ask ourselves tough questions. Are we in this parliament also responsible for these problems? Because the Communication Authority is acting under instructions from this parliament. So, Madam Speaker, the law is quite clear. The law requires that information be protected. So if the telecommunication companies are violating the law, we should be made very clear. But this business of targeting one multinational corporation or one company, we should really stop away from that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Olekina. I will request Senator Chiralege now to give his quick contribution, and then we close this matter. He spoke on a point of order, which I overruled. He spoke on a point of order, which I overruled.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I think I'm on contribution.
Just allow him to speak. I have given him the chance.
On this matter. And I would have expected the minority leader to be apt with what is happening on the House. Madam Speaker, 2 quick points. One, like any other Kenyans, unfortunately on Sunday, before going to pray, via FM, Mr. Speaker, when most of us do morning glory prayers, because it's a prayerful nation, the Safaricom, Madam Speaker, decided, Madam Speaker, to switch off many SIM cards, including a number of hustlers, including myself, Madam Speaker. And therefore agree that we need data commissioner to come here, the Communication Authority of Kenya, because as my colleagues have said, the issue of data is very critical, Madam Speaker. And it is very unfortunate, Madam Speaker, and I agree that this matter is alive, even going to the future. So I hope, Madam Speaker, the Committee of ICT should come out strongly and ensure that this matter is put to rest. Lastly, Madam Speaker, is that in as much as, and I've had the nominee, I think the nominee of Interior, our former colleague Senator Professor Kithure Kindiki, has indicated that some of this information that are being collected is for the interest and protection of the country and national security. While we appreciate, Madam Speaker, it is important also that we do it within the law, because we know where, that is where everybody wants to sell data. You are under threat, as somebody has said, wherever you are, Madam Speaker, and therefore I call upon that the Committee of ICT must cease of this matter, report back to the House so that Kenyans can be comfortable, Madam Speaker. A number of Kenyans, including saloonists, I saw in the news, that day they did not get clients. A number of even other clients that operate in mundane hours, Madam Speaker, were not able to be accessible, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, this matter should be handled carefully and with conclusion upon the direction as I had requested, understanding order 52.3, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is an important matter that is affecting all Kenyans and is affecting the communication that is being undertaken in the Republic of Kenya. And the mood of the House is that it should be committed to the Committee of ICT. So under Order 52.3 of the standing orders, we hereby commit this matter to the Committee of ICT to bring back a report to this House. Next statement, Senator Christo Asige.
Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Before I even start, I'd like to just say how proud and privileged I am to be standing in front of a Madam Speaker today. You sitting in that chair is not a small thing, and I feel very inspired to be in your presence today, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
I rise on Understanding Order 52.1 to make a statement about the just concluded World Sight Day, which was on the 13th of October, 2022. Madam Speaker, everyone in the blind and visually impaired community knows that October is a very important month because it is Blindness Awareness Month. The world over, people this year have been going and celebrating and creating sensitization activities around Loving Your Eyes, which is this year's hashtag for Blindness Awareness Month. Madam Speaker, WHO estimates that there are 2.2 billion people around the world who suffer from some kind of visual impairment, and 1 billion of those live in LMICs, Kenya being one of them. Of those 2.2 billion as well, Madam Speaker, 1 billion are preventable issues, meaning that if they were addressed earlier enough, then they could have been prevented or reversed. Visual impairment and blindness, Madam Speaker, is important for me to bring to the House this afternoon, because it affects several spheres of one's life. It affects education, employment, social activities, and integration in the community. Madam Speaker, I'd like to, at this juncture, instead of reading out this full statement because of time, tell you about a personal story of mine. The reason I'm so passionate about eye care is because I wasn't born with a disability, Madam Speaker. I was born with my full sight. And I started to notice my eyesight declining when I was 14 or 15 years old in high school. This means that I acquired my disability. And it's reasons like this, reasons of affordability, reasons of lack of awareness and sensitization, reasons like lack of prioritizing by government and Ministry of Health on eye care and the importance of eye care is why I, unfortunately, began to lose my eyesight, and I did not catch it at an early enough stage. Madam Speaker, it affected my entire life, absolutely turned upside down, and there are millions of people in Kenya, approximately 8 million people in Kenya, that right now, as we speak, need quality eye care. That's 15.5% of our population. And unfortunately, this is compounded with the fact that there are lack of ophthalmologists around the country. 58% of them are in this county of Nairobi, which means that the other counties, 46, are missing quality eye care with specialized doctors across board for ophthalmology. Madam Speaker, I'd like to just give a few tips to my colleagues and Kenyans who are listening to this on the importance of not ignoring symptoms when it comes to eye care. For example, dry eyes, headaches which are persisting. Do not ignore trends within your family of eye care, needing glasses in your family. Do not ignore sensitization efforts, like right now there is free eye screenings around the country going on through the month of October. One, I'm happy to report, happened right here in Senate with some of my friends and partners from the Ophthalmology Society of Kenya and as well from City Eye Clinic, as well as Kenya Society for the Blind, amongst other in the consortium. I'm happy to say that the Senate now has joined 20 other parliaments around the world in promoting and prioritizing eye screenings right there on their grounds, which I'm very, very proud of. I would have liked to have made this statement last week on the day itself, on Thursday the 13th, but it's never too late to take care of your eyes, Madam Speaker. I encourage everyone in here, please, fellow senators, in your committees, especially committee chairs and vice chairs, if you see some senators who are struggling with their eyesight, give them a bit of reasonable accommodation and make sure that everyone is accommodated throughout their term so that everyone can serve in the best way possible. You don't want somebody to feel like they're being left out because documentation, trips, meetings are not made accessible for them if they are struggling with their eyesight. And continue, like me, to talk about this importance of loving your eyes. That's the hashtag this year, love your eyes. Please love your eyes, love your family's eyes, your children's eyes, enough to get them checked at least once a year. And not just at an optician, Madam Speaker, ophthalmologists, because not every single problem is solved by glasses, including my own. I have glaucoma, Madam Speaker, but glaucoma does not have me. And I'd like to end on that note and say, with your guidance, Madam Speaker, if this issue can be put forward to the relevant Committee of Health to look into the fourth phase of the strategic plan by the Ministry of Health and what they are planning to do for us in terms of quality eye care across the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Asige. That is very well spoken and very well presented. We are proud of you as Senate. Remember, your name is VIP. Asante sana. I will allow a few comments, just maybe one from this side and one from this side. One. Senator Okech Eddie Ishero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to make just a quick statement in appreciation of what Senator Crystal has just talked about. And Madam Speaker, one of the most ignored chapters of our Constitution is Chapter 4, that the framers of the Constitution spent so much time thinking and rethinking the idea of Bill of Rights. And if you look at Article 19 of our Constitution, the Bill of Rights is seen as an integral part of a democratic Kenyan state, to the extent that it should form the framework of, for socio-economic and cultural policies that we make. And I believe, Madam Speaker, that this is one of those socio-economic, cultural policies that places like Ministry of Health should look at. And if you further look at the purposes for which the framers of our Constitution wanted to recognize and protect human rights and fundamental freedoms, which I believe that if today you are to be asked, would you rather lose your memory, Madam Speaker, or lose your eyesight? I think that eyesight is one of the fundamental freedoms that somebody would not want to lose. And essentially, Madam Speaker, the preserves of the idea around fundamental freedoms were established so that Kenyans can have dignities. And this dignity would only help people as a matter of social justice and would only help Kenyans to realize their full potential. There is nothing that impairs somebody from realizing their full potential as losing their eyesight. So I find this statement very critical, anchored within the idea of fundamental rights and fundamental freedoms of Kenyans, to the extent that, Madam Speaker, if I beseech you to have this committed very strongly and focused on with a relevant committee, that is the Committee of Health, to look deeply how we can help Kenyans not lose their eyesight to avoidable problems like what Senator Asige has talked about. So thank you so much, Senator, and thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Senator Roba.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Disability of any form is a reality that can really find you in the most unexpected way. As the Senator shared, the issues of eyesight being a very critical issue that needs to be shared. Sometimes, as you have your entire well-being, intact, you tend to take a lot of things for granted. But the line between becoming, visually impaired or other form of disability is very thin. You can be very normal today, and tomorrow you find yourself not being able to walk or not being able to see. And as such, I stand to support the fact that maybe in all the county and sub-county referral hospitals, there is need for us to have a vibrant eye care center to be able to attend to that among the other issues that need to be attended to, as this is true, clear, present possibility that can happen to anybody. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Asige, you have something?
Oh, thank you so much. I just had a thought that I hadn't shared, Madam Speaker, if you would indulge me just for 10 seconds. I would also like to challenge senators in their counties to please organize constituents to get their eyes tested, especially young people. Like I said, I only got this condition when I was a teenager, and when you catch it as a teenager, you're more likely to at least help that young person and realize better eye care in the rest of their life. So I would challenge or invite rather other senators in their constituencies to at least pay for or organize screenings amongst especially the youth, primary and secondary. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The next statement, Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations and wish you well. A request for statement on suspension by the Kenya Bureau of Standards (KEBS) on sales of edible oil products. Madam Speaker, I raise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health regarding the recall and suspension of sales by the Kenya Bureau of Standards of several edible oil products from various manufacturers in Kenya. In the statement, Madam Speaker, the committee should, 1, outline the process of standardization of products, specifically edible oil products, with reference to the standards specifications required to be met in all fortified oil and fats, considering these are sensitive products consumed by many Kenyans and public. Madam Speaker, explain the reasons for the recall order by Kenya Bureau of Standards on edible oil products from several manufacturers, over 10 brands that were already on shopping shelves, supermarkets, kiosks, and others, explaining the extent in which each of the products breached the standards, at what stage they were discovered
What's
to be
your point of
substandard.
order?
Number 3,
Senator Ledama.
Madam Speaker, I know some of us are quite new here, but the distinguished senator who just walked out, Senator Metho, walked across the bar to come on this side. So I think because we are all learning, it should be reminded to all new senators that they have to walk all the way there, bow, and then come here. I think it's just a point of information, because I know he's brand new.
Thank you, Senator Ledama. All new senators, can we take note of that, please? Thank you. Continue, Senator.
my apologies, I thought the point of order was on me. Madam Speaker, let me take to that one. Explain the reasons for the recall order by KEBS on edible oil products from several manufacturers, over 10 brands that were already on shopping shelves, supermarkets, kiosks, explaining the extent to which each of the products breached the standards and at what stage were they discovered to be substandard, Madam Speaker, and they're already on the shelves. Number 3, state whether there are plans to compensate retailers, supermarkets, shop dealers, and customers after affected by the recall and suspension of the oil products, Madam Speaker. And finally, Madam Speaker, state the measures, if any, that Kenya Bureau of Standards has put in place to facilitate the protection of consumers through Confederation of Protection of Consumers and Competition Authority of Kenya from potentially unsafe products, specifically, Madam Speaker, on the oil, edible oil products and other products consumable, and to safeguard the economic interest of manufacturers. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Next statement by Senator Alexander Mundigi.
Senator Mundigi, Embu County DP, Kenya Kwanza. Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir. Madam Speaker, sir. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I arise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to check a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the incessant conflicts between Bere and Ameru communities in Siakago constituency, Embu County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, explain measures that have been put in place to address the ongoing conflict resulting from allegations of theft of Mera between the Bere and Ameru communities in Siakago constituency, Embu County. 2, give reasons for the rise in cases of insecurity in the constituency, stating reasons for the reluctance by security agents in the area to embrace the policy on community policing, thus causing serious disharmony between the two communities, and 3, recommend intervention to alleviate the ongoing conflict. Madam Speaker, I arise pursuant to a standing order 53(1) to check a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding an arsonist attack which left 7 members of the family dead in Gemare, Ferenc, Gesese, Sublocation, Runyenjes constituency, Embu County. In the statement, the committee should apprise the Senate on the status of investigations into the incident.
There is a point of order by Senator Wambua.
Sit. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Senator for Embu, I think he has proceeded to seek a second statement. I don't know whether that was supposed to happen, or he has to seek the permission of the chair to seek a second statement.
The second statement is actually listed, so it is okay for him to read it. Continue, Senator. And
there's a reason why I raised that issue, because I have a personal issue that I need to attend to, and I had asked to be allowed to make my statements that are listed, but I was told I could only do one statement. But if it's allowed to Senator Embu, then he's my neighbor, it's okay.
Senator, we have agreed that he will be the last to read his statements, and then we will postpone all the others, because we've spent more than 1 hour on the statements. Yes, sir. Proceed and finalize, please, Senator. Proceed.
Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53(1) to check a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding an arsonist attack which left 7 members of a family dead in Gemare, Ferenc, Gesese, Sublocation, Runyenjes constituency, Embu County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, apprise the Senate on the status of investigation into the incident that has left 7 families members dead, and 3, state the reasons for the inordinate delay by respective agencies in treating this matter with the agency it deserves, outlining the targeted intervention in strengthening security in the area and ensure the safety of residents of the county. Madam Speaker, I arise pursuant to Standing Order 53(1) to check a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the sale and consumption of illicit brews in the Chicago constituency, Embu County, that left 4 dead and several others losing their eyesight. In the statement, the committee should, 1, apprise the Senate on the status of investigations to bring to book perpetrators who sold illicit brew to innocent villagers in Chicago constituency, leaving 4 dead and several others losing their sight. 2, state targeted interventions to encourage commercial production of illegalized traditional brews in order to cut off quick in the recreative industry, and 3, state measures to raise awareness on accessible and affordable traditional brews to discourage the making and selling of life-threatening brews, which has been going on across the country. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Senators, we will defer the remaining statements because we have spent a lot of time on this. Next order, please.
Order number 8, a motion, appointment of a joint select committee on election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, acknowledging that the East African Legislative Assembly is established under Article 9 of the Treaty for Establishment of the East African Community as one of the key organs and institutions of a community responsible for the community's legislative matters. Recognizing that Article 50 of the treaty provides for the elections of members of EALA by representative partner states legislature in accordance with their parliamentary procedures for a term of 5 years. Further aware that the East African Legislative Assembly Elections Act 2011 contemplates conclusion of the election of members of a new assembly to be within 90 days before the expiry of the terms of the subsisting assembly, and noting that the term of the current East African Legislative Assembly will come to an end on the 17th of December 2022, cognizant of the need to urgently conclude the process for the East African Legislative Assembly to commence transacting business of the East African community. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Rule number 9 of the House of Parliament Joint Sitting Rules, the Senate resolves as follows. 1. To establish a joint select committee consisting of 7 members from each House of Parliament to undertake functions contemplated under the East African Legislative Assembly elections of members of the Assembly, Rules of 2017. 2. That the following members represent the Senate in the Joint Select Committee. Those are Senator Daniel Kitonga Maanzo, Senator Rafael Chimera, Senator Joyce Chepkoech Korir, Senator Miraj Abdullahi Abdul Rahman, Senator Chute Mohamed Said, Senator Joseph Githuku Kamau, Senator Beatrice Akinyi Oyomo. 3. That the offices of the clerks of the Houses of Parliament provides the Secretariat services to the Joint Committee in accordance with the standing orders, and that the Joint Committee reports to the House of a Parliament within the timeline stipulated in the East African Legislative Assembly election of the members of Assembly Rules 2017. Madam Speaker, this is a fairly straightforward matter. It's actually more of a procedural motion because we are just setting up a committee whose main duty, Madam Speaker, shall be to oversight or provide just guidance necessary that be needed from one time to the other for the technical team made up of representatives from both Houses of Parliament that will oversee this process of the election of members of Parliament to join the members of Parliament for East African Legislative Assembly. Madam Speaker, you are aware that Kenya is actually a founder state from amongst the other EAC communities together with Tanzania in the year 1999. I think this will be the fourth, if I'm not misguided, Madam Speaker, cohort of members of Parliament that you are sending to the Legislative Assembly. Each year at the beginning of a term, we do this, elect members of Parliament. People express their desire to join this House. It's largely a process driven by the political parties or the majority and minority side of both sides of the House, Madam Speaker. These members shall work actually in consultation with the leadership of both sides. You know very well, Madam Speaker, that as per our election rules, for each position that is available, we present, the parties or the sides of the House presents 3 candidates. The total number of representation from Kenya is 9. So therefore, the minority side will have their list of 12 candidates, and the side of the majority will have their list of 15 members. That is 3 for each of the 5 allocated slots that the majority side has in both sides of Parliament, Madam Speaker. Once the names have been gazetted, or rather listed, the members will campaign, and members of Parliament that are here are the voters for that matter. They'll move around, share their ideals, speak on why they think they deserve to represent Kenya in the East African Legislative Assembly. Then, Madam Speaker, we are finalizing the process of the dates, but as it is right now, the proposed date is elections to be held on the 17th of November, 2022. We don't want the previous experience where this House, and perhaps Senator Oburu will know this, the Kenyan Parliament delayed the setting up of